Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. We promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go!
Good morning, Lunchtime! This week, we have Josh Staley, an up-and-coming magician who's playing at the Melbourne Magic Festival this month. I can't wait to get to know him and have a chat about all things magic. Three, two, one. Nice. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to have you. So we have said this before that previously the Lunchtime podcast was only AFL players just because it was linked with the specific footy club. But now we're just trying to get people from all walks of life. So we're stoked to have you on.
It's very exciting to be in something sports related because as a magician, this is like a very foreign world to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's foreign to us as well. So that's why I'm very excited to sort of get to know the inner workings of magic and how you sort of come about it. So if you want to give us a little rundown about where you grew up and things like that, your family?
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in Beaumaris down near the beach in Bayside, and I've lived there my entire life. So I'm 25, so it's been 25 years I've been living there. Mum, dad, and a brother who actually was responsible for getting me into magic. He's a little bit older than me, so he got into magic first, and then when I was born and got a little bit older, he kind of moved on, and he does Ironmans now, so he's sporty somehow, and I got his hand-me-downs, and I never gave it up.
Wow, amazing. So what age were you roughly when you sort of got
Yeah, I mean, I think like everyone probably has had the experience of getting a magic kid or seeing like David Copperfield or someone on TV, so like when I was like 6 or 7. But then I probably got like more serious into it when I was like 10, 11, 12, that kind of age.
Yep.
Because I think by that point you get like sort of the motor skills to be able to actually like do proper magic stuff.
Yep.
So it's like 10, 15 years now since I've been doing it seriously.
What really got you, what really grabbed you and wanted you to...
I don't know. I think I liked the mystery of it all. Like, I'm one of those people that loves watching like murder mysteries and solving puzzles and all that kind of stuff. And I think when I saw magicians and like figuring out how it worked was sort of got me into it. But then once you know how it works, that whole world just obsessed me of practicing sleight of hand and working on things. And then as I got older, I got really into the other stuff like writing scripts and stories and all that kind of stuff as well. So I think it's everything, in all honesty. It's my true obsession.
Yeah, wow.
It's always good when you know something that somebody else doesn't know.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a secret between your friends or something, but having the power of a magic trick in your hands is pretty special because everybody wants to know how the hell you do it. And it's the law. You're not allowed to tell them.
It is the law. And it's true. I mean, I think most people, especially like teenagers and adults, do get into it for that reason because you can do something for other people. So it's like sort of a social crutch in a way. But I think the more you get into magic, the more you kind of realize that like the mystery of how it's done isn't necessarily the best part. It's that moment before people start thinking about how it's done where they have no idea and you're just kind of in that like anything can happen world. And I think that's the best part. Even if it only lasts like 2 or 3 seconds, you kind of have this like shocking, wondrous world and nothing makes sense, but like everything makes sense at the same time. And that's for me the best part.
Wow. I just think it's funny how you're like, you just, you know, what do you call it? You're just so excited by this, you know, constant state of confusion.
Yeah. It kind of is a constant state of confusion.
Yeah, where, you know, if for me, confused, I'm just in that much, you know, there's that much head noise going on.
Yeah. The cool thing about magic though as well is like I get a lot of magic videos come up on my TikTok. It's always like people walking down the street doing magic tricks. There's something so special about people's reaction to
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really big thing nowadays, social media magic and TikTok magic, and you see it everywhere. And I think magic kind of goes through these different stages. Like when I was growing up, I mean, you two was probably like David Blaine was on TV doing street magic. But before that, it was like David Copperfield who just filmed shows live. So it kind of transitions every year or every few years. But it's still like at its core the same thing, which is just doing something impossible and blowing people away by it.
Is it more, so the things with social, I feel like, you know, with card tricks and stuff, is it more about playing the person or is it about, like the same thing will work digitally or...
Yeah, well, I mean, the truth is on social media magic, it's not to say it's fake, but it's very like carefully crafted. I'm sure you guys know everything on social media is. So for social media magic, it's really designed for the camera, and the people there maybe aren't necessarily getting the best experience because it's really hard to film something that you can see looking great, but also the camera. So not that the people are in on it or stooges or paid or anything, but you kind of sacrifice their experience for the camera. And it's like I was saying earlier, you have to design the right tricks for the right setting. You know, I wouldn't come into your studio and do a big illusion that I would do for 10,000 people.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing on social media. So you kind of have to find the right stuff to do in the right place. And on social media, it's usually like really quick and visual because TikToks are like 10 seconds long.
Yeah, that's right.
And people's attention spans are half that. So it has to be like instant, incredible.
How funny is that as well? I'm probably the worst offender for that on TikTok, where it's like if something doesn't grab my eye straight away, I'm like,
Oh.
Yeah, well, that's social media. You can scroll through so many things so quickly to get someone to pay attention to a magic trick. You can't have like 2 minutes of counting cards and dealing and all that because no one's going to watch it.
Yeah.
No, well, we were thinking of burying you alive today, but the pod goes for about 45 minutes to an hour, so you know it probably wouldn't be that exciting.
I could probably escape in that time, but I just have to listen to some digging.
Well, speaking on that, so you primarily work in card tricks, things like that?
Yeah, so I have to be flexible, I suppose, because you never kind of know like where you're going to go. And post-COVID, a lot of my work has been in theatre shows. So as opposed to doing what we call roving magic, so you go to like a corporate Christmas party or a function or whatever and do close-up magic for small groups of people. Now most of my work is in theatres or nightclubs and bars and places like that. So you do a ticketed show, so people will buy a ticket at the Adelaide Fringe Festival, Comedy Festival, and come see a more formal show. And so that's where I'm at now.
Well, so speaking on that, with the COVID and things like that, can you tell us about your experience over that time as a magician?
It was a really weird experience, I think, for a few different reasons. Obviously, my whole family was affected by COVID, and within that, my mum and dad have more, I guess, standard officey jobs, so they were still working at home. Whereas me, basically my entire source of income, my entire source of activity, everything was just gone. So I had a really long time just to watch Netflix and do nothing, and it was kind of hard to find motivation to like rehearse new routines and practice and stuff because there was no necessary end in sight for it.
Yeah,
but I kind of just had to like force myself to use that time to like come up with new material and come up with new stuff in the event that we get out of COVID. But you know, I mean, it was 2000 and who knows, and it just sort of felt like it was 2000 who knows for years and years. And the truth is, for like magicians, there really wasn't a ton of support in the art sector at all. So like I had like basically no income. And the hard part isn't during COVID, it's the post-COVID, because all the clients I would have who would book me every year for their Christmas parties or whatever it is kind of forget about you over that 3-year period. Yeah. So now it's sort of that process of having like rebuild your name and rebuild your image up there and get more bookings and get more things in it. So it was a tough time. And I'm sure it was for a lot of people. I'm lucky that I sort of can get back into it and do like Comedy Festival and Fringe Festival and stuff, but the roving magic or the close-up stuff, it kind of disappeared for a really long time. And I think that's true for a lot of magicians, that especially with like social distancing and that kind of thing, people don't necessarily want a stranger coming into their party and being 1 meter away from them doing card tricks for obvious reasons.
100%.
So magicians really had to adapt, but I found a lot of success doing virtual shows. So for both corporate and ticketed shows, I did magic over Zoom. So people would log in on the computer with their family, and for an hour we'd do interactive stuff over Zoom. So people would get their own deck of cards out in their house or different things, and it was a really unique experience.
Wow, as like a little tutorial sort of thing?
No, so it was a full show. So like buying a ticket to come watch me at the Magic Festival or the Comedy Festival, you'd buy a ticket and you'd get sent a Zoom link, and then I would do magic. But it was designed so that like you would do the stuff and it would happen for you without me having to be in the same room.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really weird challenge, and it took a really long time, to like maybe 6 or 7 or 8 months to do the first one. And it was a constant process of sort of figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
Well, do you make up your own tricks?
Yeah, so magic is kind of weird in that way because there's sort of like predetermined tricks that exist, and you kind of like have to have your own spin on it. There's a theory, and I'm not sure anyone's actually worked it out, but they think that there's more written about magic than any other topic in literature. So, and I'm not sure anyone's going to really figure that out because there's thousands of things you have to go through, but there's literally hundreds of thousands of hours worth of books, DVDs, videos, everything of people's contributions to certain plots is what we would call them. So like, if you think about the pick a card trick, every magician has a way to have someone pick a card and they find it. So my job is to sort of figure out how I want to do it and put my own spin on it. So I guess the easiest way to think about it is like a toolbox. So in that box, I have different sleights, different gimmicks, different techniques that I can use, and then I put those together with like stories, presentations, that kind of thing to make something. And then, like I was saying before, you kind of have to figure out new ways to accomplish it in new venues. So on Zoom, obviously stuff where I let a spectator shuffle the cards isn't possible because they're not in the room with me anymore, as an example. So it was kind of like starting from scratch and having to figure out what you can do. But it also opened up new avenues because I'm not performing for people who can look around now and look wherever they want. I'm performing for a camera, a stationary shot. So you kind of have pros and cons.
Yeah.
And do you have to, because obviously sleight of hand is an important thing and deception, so trying to lead somebody's eyes over here while you're doing something over here. Does that become harder when you're doing it over Zoom because you know that someone might be recording it and they could just rewind?
Yeah, so it is hard. So doing magic for any kind of camera is really tricky. I know we were talking about social media before we started recording it. It's the same kind of thing. The camera doesn't blink. You know, when I do magic for you, you pay attention to, there's a bird over there, you look away for a second, or you just blink, or you're not fully focused, and I can do secret things in that time zone. Whereas if you're watching a recording, it has to be absolutely perfect because you can rewind, but not just rewind, you can watch it in super slow motion and see every single thing. So that's why like TV magicians have teams of people helping them out designing stuff. And it's the same on Zoom because people can zoom in, pardon the pun, really closely and watch a particular frame on the screen and try and figure it out. So it becomes a real challenge.
Do you find in person as well, do you ever go in with like, all right, so this is the trick that I want to do, but different avenues to get that ending if you say have a really tricky person watching you?
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're doing magic close up for people, like at a corporate function or something like that, because there isn't kind of that decorum that you might have in a theatre show. Like if you buy a ticket to go see a magician or a comedian or whatever, you're less likely to heckle them and give them a hard time. Yeah. Whereas when I'm paid by your boss to come in and do magic for you at the end of the year function, that's a whole different avenue of things. So you have to be extremely versatile because there might be people who are drunk out of their mind and have no idea what they're doing, and they drop cards everywhere, or they want you to do something completely different, or even just things like they have been eating finger food and the deck's now really sticky and you can't do the sleights you were trying to do, so now you have to change tack completely. So I kind of have to go in there with like a set list in my mind. You know, here's 30 minutes of material, but in the back of my mind, here's like 6 more hours of different things I can do in case this happens, in case this happens.
That's what I wanted to know. So when you're rehearsing or you're coming up with your sort of plans, are you doing that? Like, do you have a bunch of people in your life that you rehearse to, that you trust? Yeah.
So, I mean, I think every magician and probably every performer has their own sort of unique process. So for me, the first step is research. So let's say I want to make you levitate. I'm going to snap my fingers, you're going to fly. My first step would be to look through every other magician who's done something similar to that and kind of look at the best versions and what I like from it, what I don't like from it, and then sort of you start constructing your own method, and then it comes into like sort of that trial and error thing. You know, I might try it by myself and you're floating, but you're only getting 2 inches off the floor, so how can I change it? Oh, now you're floating too high and people can't see anymore. Yeah. And then you kind of hit that stage where it looks good enough to show my girlfriend, my mum, my grandparents, whoever it is, and those are kind of like my inner circle people because, you know, my parents specifically have been seeing me do magic for almost my whole life now. So they don't know how magic trick works necessarily, but they've seen so much of it that they know what looks good and what looks a bit suspicious. And I think even you guys can tell when you're seeing a bad magician that you don't know how the trick works, but something just looks a little bit weird. You know, maybe their hand is just kind of janking really fast, or they're palming something and you can tell or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to show it to people you trust and be like, you know, be honest to me. And it's really hard for those, like, you know, mum loves me. She doesn't want to upset me. But if like, no, be brutal, like tell me, like, did you see something? And, you know, you kind of have then like different people who serve different roles. Like my grandma is the nicest lady. It would kill her to give any kind of harsh feedback. So she's kind of like that confidence booster person. Whereas my girlfriend hates being fooled. She has to know how everything works. So she'll watch something eagle-eyed. So she's really useful if I'm trying to do something sort of high concept to, if it gets past her, it's going to get past the average person. Yeah. And then kind of like once you're past that level, you might do it in like a more low-key show. So like in Melbourne, we have nights run by a magic club that I'm a member of, and we invite people to come along, but the expectation is that it's kind of like new material tryout night. So the audience aren't expecting to see the best show ever. They understand that there could be mishaps, fails, successes, whatever. So you're trying to try it at one of these events that it doesn't necessarily matter if I make a little mistake. And then once you've got it to that point, then you take it out to the paid shows or the big gigs.
Amazing. That's pretty funny though. Like I would never have thought about having this sort of magic community where it's like other magicians helping each other out, things like that. So when you talk about your family and your inner circle and things like that, when you started getting into it, and I suppose it was a hobby when you were a kid, was there any times that your family was going like, righto, well, like what's your backup plan, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, my family's always been extremely supportive, and I think I'm really lucky in that regard that at no point have they ever just been flat out like, you should be a lawyer, or you should be a doctor, or, do something successful. They understand that like that's my passion and that's what they want me to follow. Fantastic. But at the same time, like I was very lucky to go to a really nice private school and have a great education, and they still wanted me to go to university and all that kind of stuff. But instead of going to uni and doing a random degree that would be good on a resume, I went and did advertising and marketing because I understood that could help me in my magic career. But also if something like COVID happened, I can fall back on that and do other stuff. So like during COVID, I took on some jobs as a social media manager. So I ran some different pages. I do a podcast, social media, funnily enough, and some different things. But at the same time, it's not just useless and magic at the same time. Yeah. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. And then beyond that, they come to every show, or as many as they can. They flew to Adelaide in January to watch me in the Fringe Festival. My grandfather, his passion in life is building things. So he never was a professional tradesman, but that's his thing. So when his grandson grew up and wanted to be a magician and have props built, it was like two lifelong passions meeting, because he now has someone in his life that he can build stuff for, and it brings him so much joy to make these weird, obscure props. Yeah. So we have to go to like electronic stores and Bunnings and all these things, and you ask for the strangest combinations of things, and he loves that. So it's really fortunate these two kind of different things have really met together.
Yeah, amazing.
It sounds so supportive.
Oh yeah, and that's great to hear that you've got that support network.
Yeah,
obviously it would be so much harder for
it is, and I know a lot of magicians who do have that problem, and it's understandable. I mean, any kind of performing arts career is not like the most likely thing to really take off, and it's it is hard work. Because I think when people see magicians or comedians or singers or whoever, you kind of just see like that 1 hour performance. But the reality is I spend more time as a marketer, as a director, as a writer, all those kind of different jobs than as a magician, because you have to get to the show and you have to get people to come see that show. Yeah. So that's the hard part.
Well, sort of tell me, what does the magic pathway look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think nowadays there can be so many different pathways, because you can become just a social media magician. One of my colleagues only does magic for social media, so he doesn't actually perform. It sounds funny, but he doesn't perform in real life. He only makes TikTok videos, but he makes a great living out of that. And there's some magicians in Vegas, and you've probably seen these guys on TikTok, because they basically run social media magic, and they make millions of dollars a year in sponsorship deals through social media magic. But then the other avenue, you could go on like Penn and Teller Fool Us, so you could go on America's Got Talent, and one of my friends did that. So that's their avenue, that they've sort of done the game show circuit. So you could become a stage magician and just do theatre shows. You could do roving. There's so many different things that you can do. I guess it kind of comes down to like what your specific interest is in magic and where you want to take it.
Yeah, right. So you feel like yours is the more in-person, in-close things? Or?
Yeah, I think that's the thing I really like. But like I said, I do more theatre shows now, and I'm becoming more interested in that. I think it's fun that I can be flexible. Yeah. Because I also think it keeps you from getting burnt out, because I know a lot of magicians do the same show, as in like the same tricks every day for 5 days a week for years, and eventually they just kind of lose the passion and lose interest in it, and it just becomes a boring job. So I think it's important for me that never happens, because I can change what I'm doing so easily. And if I get burnt out on doing close up, I can start doing stage stuff, or if I get burnt out on that, I can do this.
Yeah. Does it ever feel like you've got to, like if you want to, obviously you just said there's a lot of different avenues, but does it ever feel like you've got to go to LA? Like, how actors, it's like, I have to go to LA if I'm going to make it.
I got to get in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I've spoken to this before with some American friends who are big names there, and like they kind of remind you that like just because you get to LA means nothing. It's actually harder there, because there's more magicians there. So it's kind of this weird thing that there's more opportunities, but there's also more people fighting for that opportunity. Whereas in Australia, there might be less chances to make it big, but there's also less people trying to do that thing. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to find that right balance. I know one of my friends who did move to LA, and he had a really terrible few years, because he's gone from being kind of like the big fish in the small pond in Australia to now a very, very, very small fish, because you're not just competing against sort of other good magicians, you're also competing with people like David Copperfield. So, you know, if you want to get a big booking for a big gig, they're not going to call you, they're going to call someone who's just been on TV. So it becomes a really hard thing. So I think once again, it kind of depends on like what you want to do, because in America, there's a lot more like theatre, sort of that kind of thing. If you want to go to Vegas, obviously you have to go to Vegas. Whereas here, if you're happy doing Fringe Festival and roving gigs and stuff like that, it's great. I mean, Adelaide Fringe is, I think it's the second biggest Fringe Festival in the world. So it's not like there's not the places that you can do big things. One of my friends did Fringe, and he had 500 people a night for 30 nights in a row. Which is like a massive deal. So, you know, it's not like in Australia, you don't have the opportunity to do these big things. You just kind of have to seek out and find them. And I guess take that like leap of faith to, you know, book in the 400 seat venue and you know, pray that people will come. It's like, you know, build it and they will come philosophy. But I think it's kind of like this step up thing. You know, he's much older than me, and he's been doing Fringe for a lot longer than me. But when he started, he was only doing 50 seat venues. And then you kind of start selling those out, and then you go to 100 seat and 200 seat, and you slowly build up. So I'm obviously a long way behind him in terms of my age, but I'm sort of at the beginning of where he was. So hopefully in, you know, 5 or 10 years time, I can be at the same place as that. And all of a sudden, he doesn't really have to work for the rest of the year, because he makes 80% of his income in that 1 month at Fringe. But the thing is, and I can see your face right now going like, I wish, but the truth is, he's only quote unquote working for that 1 month a year, but the other 11 months he's writing a show, he's hiring publicists, he's getting directors. It's a serious business. And just because he might be making a lot of money at Fringe, a lot of that money is then being spent on the advertising, on the directors, on all that kind of stuff. And you know, if you want to have these big shows too, it's not a one-man operation. You need to have a tech operator, you need to have a director, you need to have, some people have choreographers, some people have paid dancers, all that kind of stuff. So you kind of never get to like chill out and rest. And that's one of the things that plagues me. You know, I don't sleep very well ever, because every night I wake up, I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea for something. Oh, I should do that. And you know, then I'm on my phone researching and Googling, looking at YouTube videos, or going to get a book out or whatever. So you kind of never stop.
In your mind, where do you feel like, you know, you can sort of take that sigh of relief, as in like, I made it? When's sort of that point in your mind?
I think it's every night after a show, because you kind of have that build up of anxiety and like, is it going to be good? You know, I hope people are going to like it. You know, there's reviewers in the room, there's VIP guests, whatever it is. And then you kind of like do the show, and then you leave and like, oh, no, actually I am good. Because I think a lot of performers kind of have that imposter syndrome of, they're like, oh, all these people are here to see me, but like, what if I'm not good enough? What if the show's not going to be good enough? What if something goes wrong? And then you have a really good show, and it kind of reminds you like, oh no, I am good.
Yeah, that sort of validation.
But then like on the flip side, you can do a show and it is terrible for whatever reason. You know, maybe the audience aren't into it, or maybe someone ruins it because they're drunk and they heckle you, or something breaks, or whatever it is. So like, not every show is good. And most shows are, but sometimes there are bad ones. And I think that kind of like plays on you. So like, you know, you do a month of Fringe shows and you have Monday off, but the weekend shows weren't very good. So then you like sit there on Monday, like, oh, how do I fix this? You know, how do I make sure this thing doesn't happen again? And ultimately, you can't kind of have a solution for everything. Like, some things just happen, and the skill of being a really good performer is figuring out on the spot how to get over that.
What can you tell me about some of your most sort of outrageous gigs?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I think magicians, more than any other performers, are kind of like that duck image. You know, on the top they're just smoothly floating on the water, but underneath they're paddling like mad. Because I constantly have to be thinking, no matter how many times I've done the trick, what is this person going to do? And because, you know, if I ask you to help me, I've never asked you to help me before, so I don't know how you're going to react and what you're going to do. And you have to be like absolutely ready for anything. You know, if I have someone borrow a bill to me and ask them to sign the name on it, maybe they don't want to, or maybe they rip it in half for some weird reason. And when you then go into more like advanced methodology, like you're using props that can break or things like that, you know, that's when the danger comes on. One of my colleagues, who I won't say their name because they're not actually a magician, they are a professional card cheat. So they genuinely like cheat at cards and you know, win unfairly. By the day, they're a casino protection expert. So their job is they go to like casinos in America and tell them how to avoid cheaters.
Oh my goodness,
Wow.
this is like those people.
So it's like
that
Ocean's
hack
11 kind of stuff. Yeah,
so
so
they hack into the government.
he'll
and
be
the
like,
government
you know,
hires them.
put a camera there, because that one looks down here. And the reason he knows all this stuff is because he's the person that they're trying to stop. And he has a device that's a card counter. So you might have seen this in movies before, that as cards are getting dealt out, and to simplify it, if you imagine like all the good cards are worth 1 point, or the bad cards are worth 0, you count them, so you know the deck right now has more good cards than bad cards, so statistically you're likely to win. It's a far more complicated system than that, but just to simplify it. And you have to be a math genius to do it, because it's extremely hard. But at casinos, they use multiple decks. So at any one time, there could be 300 to 400 cards being played. So what these guys have is they have supercomputers that sit in their shoes. And basically what you do is you use your foot to press down on a button, like Morse code, to count these things. So as the guy is dealing out the cards, you're looking at them and going, okay, 1, 2, 4, whatever, and you're counting down. And this guy was ready to do a high stakes game, and this is serious stuff. And he shook someone's hand, met him, and a lady walked past in heels, and she stepped on his foot. And this broke it's worth like $150,000 computer that is in his shoe, shattered it. It actually broke his toe as well, because these are heels. And he has to just kind of play it cool and be like, oh, you know, that really hurt. But he can't say, you just broke my cheating device, because everyone around him right now is, you know, going to break his kneecaps. So he kind of just has to play the game normally and be like, oh, I had an off night, guys, sorry, and leave. And everyone's like, what happened? And you know, what else can you do, right? Because he doesn't have another method to achieve that goal. There is no other method. So he's got a shattered $200,000 computer walking around in his shoe, and he just has to sit there for the next 3 hours and play poker and act like it's not a terrible night for him.
Oh my God.
And I think that happens for a lot of magicians with a lot of things, because there's so much it can go wrong. You know, if you put a girl in a box and she's supposed to vanish, but you open that door and hasn't vanished yet, what do you do? And I've seen very big name magicians do that, and it's extremely awkward, because no one's fooled by the fact that she's still there. Like, obviously it's gone wrong, and it's even worse when that box door opens and it's not supposed to, and she's like halfway out of the box. But she's not supposed to be halfway out of the box. She's supposed to be in there, and then you kind of just, everyone looks at you, you look at them, they look at the audience, and we all kind of just know that like this isn't supposed to be happening, and the curtain's shut, and that's it.
Yeah.
I feel like I could be getting this wrong, but I feel like Dave Chappelle said about being a comedian or something, that you're not a comedian until you've bombed, and that everybody has their big bomb at some point in their career, that you either quit or you keep going after that.
Yeah.
Did you have your big bomb?
I mean, I don't think I've had like a Dave Chappelle sized big bomb. I haven't been fired from any networks yet, or gone to Cuba with cocaine. But you know, like things have gone wrong. I remember I was lucky enough to win the junior championships of Magic when I was 16.
Yeah, right.
And when I was doing my rehearsal act in front of a full audience of people, and the judges weren't there, luckily, but part of the act involved, funnily enough, a shoe that also was gimmicked, and the bottom of the shoe could slide around to secretly get things into it. And I had my shoe off in front of the audience, and the whole shoe just fell apart.
Oh, no.
And things fell out of it that weren't supposed to be in there, and there's no kind of way around it, is there? So you kind of just have to be like, oh, my shoe's broken, and then think of a whole new trick to do on the spot, and that's very stressful for a 15-year-old.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
But luckily now, as I get a bit older, I work really hard to kind of avoid having disastrous things go wrong. So really, it can only be like someone coming into my space, like a heckler or a drunk person or whatever. But even then, I'm relatively confident that I can deal with any situation. Like during COVID, though, for example, like Zoom, that was a nightmare, because Telstra is not really good at supplying my internet to my house. So, you know, you'd be doing a show for 100 people for Crown, and then your internet just dies.
Oh, no.
And, you know, it's a killer. But like, you know, so I had to buy like the little like USB plugs to have like a backup internet, and then I have my phone as a third backup, and then another backup, and then you have to move around the house and everything. And, you know, those are bombs, because you've got a very high paying gig for a lot of people, and you're just gone, and there's nothing you can do about it, because the internet is just out in the house. But luckily, I think everyone in the world was experiencing that problem. Right. So, you know, people are understanding, and I think generally people are understanding, because, you know, the rule in Magic is that if the audience like you, then they want to support you, so they don't want your trick to go wrong. So for me, the goal is to come out there and be so endearing to the audience that if something goes wrong, they feel bad about it, or even they feel like they've done something wrong, like they ruined the trick.
You're gaslighting the audience.
Yeah, basically. And even though like there's no possible way it could be their fault, like my shoe breaking, how could that be something like they telekinetically broke it? But they're still there like, oh, like have I done something wrong? I'm sorry. And that's my goal, because you see people who are the opposite. If they heckle their audience and they're tough and everything, like you see comedians do that all the time. And I think that takes a lot of guts, because you're now putting them like on the offensive. And in comedy, what can go wrong? Like they heckle you back and they're not funny and you are, you win. But in magic, if they try and screw you up, they probably are going to be able to screw you up. Yeah. So it's a lot of work to get the audience on your side so that doesn't happen, or more often than not, it doesn't happen. And if it does, it's like the shoe story, it's dumb luck.
Yeah.
So speaking of going forward, can you give us a rundown about your upcoming gigs?
Yeah, so I am currently getting ready for the Melbourne Magic Festival. So it's the biggest event of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere. So it's been running for 15 years next year, so 14 years. And every year about 10 to 15,000 people come for a 2-week festival of every kind of magic show you can imagine. So it starts next Monday, and from next Monday to the Sunday 2 weeks from them, so the school holidays, you can see literally any kind of magician you want. So there are guys doing card cheating demonstrations. There's guys doing, or girls, I should say, people doing kids shows, family shows, comedy shows, dark, spooky stuff. There's illusions, there's card tricks, coin tricks, mentalism, mind reading, hypnosis, literally everything. And for me, that was like the biggest moment of my life when I was a kid growing up. That was like my grand final, to be able to go see every magician that I'd ever loved. And before COVID, even like international guys like world champions and Guinness World Record holders and people like that would fly over to participate in the festival. And I would be so excited to watch those guys. And now that I'm older and doing it, it's so special that I'm that person that other people are coming to see. So it's very exciting, and I get to do a show that I haven't done for a really long time either, called The Conjurer at the Card Table. Because the Magic Festival is a bit more, I can do sort of more intimate stuff. I can do some of my favorite kind of illusions and card tricks and sleight of hand pieces. So that's what I've been working on for a long time, and I'm excited to bring it out in 2 weeks.
Amazing. And you talked about before as well that you've performed at the Comedy Festival in Melbourne as well.
Yeah, so I did that. I've been doing that for 5 or 6 years now, and I did it this year as well. And it's kind of a weird thing at the Comedy Festival, because it was the first event I did after COVID. So last year's Comedy Festival was like the first big thing in Melbourne post-COVID, and it was very weird doing a show where you can't really be near anyone. There's got to be gaps in the chairs between everyone. Everyone has masks on. And, these kind of little things are things that I think normal people would never think about. But like doing a show for people where you can't see their mouth and this is all you can hear is really hard, because you can't see if people like the trick. You can't see if they're smiling. You can't see if they're laughing. You can't see if they're bored. And it became a really big challenge. And then the same is true, like you can't do stuff for you. Like the distance you and me are sitting at is not nearly as far away as I was from the audience, and I'm not allowed to have people on stage. Even now, still in like cruise ships, one of my friends exclusively works on cruise ships, and he can't have audience members on stage, and he can't give them anything to touch, and he can't touch anything of theirs. So it creates these massive challenges. But thankfully, the Comedy Festival audience is such a excited audience. Like as much as I was excited to be on stage, they were excited to be in that theatre. Yeah. So it made for a really great experience. And then this year was the first year back to normal. And it was a blast. So I did shows at the Carlton Brew House, and they were really excited to have someone. So they kind of like rolled out the red carpet to have a magician come in and do stuff, and they kind of gave me free reign of the whole venue, do whatever I want, which was really exciting.
Yeah. Well, I feel like with those events, you as the audience member, it's like if I'm going to the comedy festival, for example, it's like I'm going there because I want to laugh or I want to be fooled by your magic tricks. Same with the festivals like that. So I can only imagine the challenges if it's like, oh, and by the way, we've got a magician here, and you're kind of like, what?
It can be really terrible, and it depends on what the event is. But you do events for law firms, finance firms, stuff like that, and they've paid a magician, and the event organizer is really excited about, like, oh my god, I can't wait to see card tricks. But the other people, they're really not excited about it. And sometimes you'll get things where you like walk up to a group like, hi, nice to meet you, I'm Josh, I'm the magician, and they'll just tell you to leave.
Wow.
Or sometimes if I guess it's lucky, but they'll be like, oh, I know you're paid to be here, here's $50, just don't come back to us.
People can be such pricks like that. Eh?
Yeah, well, I guess maybe they're doing like business deals, or they're talking about important stuff, or I think the truth is though they're just not interested. And you don't see this generally at most events, but and not to paint these kind of professions, but like the kind of like the high income, high power musicians, they just don't really want to see the entertainer. I don't think it's necessarily magicians, but like if it was a juggler or whatever it is. But I remember doing a show and that's exactly what happened. They were like, oh, you know, go entertain the kids, quote unquote. And by kids, they meant like the 20 and 30-year-old interns and stuff. So you go over there, but then they also don't want to see you. So then they give you $50 and tell you, you know, go entertain the old people who are the bosses. And then you kind of just have to ping pong back and forth for the hour I've been booked.
Sounds like a bunch of soulless pricks.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the kind of people without souls are the kind of people that don't enjoy laughter and magic and fun.
How does that affect you sort of mentally? Does that hurt your confidence at all?
I don't think it hurts my confidence. I mean, it obviously sucks in the moment because I'm being paid to be there and I have to keep asking people to see magic. Because obviously I can't tell the event organizer no one's interested because that looks really bad on me.
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to suck it up and be like, okay, these people don't want to look at it. But you kind of just, you know, it's like in Predator, you know, he has like the infrared vision and you like hunt people down. So I kind of have to stay in the room and like look for who I think might pay attention to me for like 1 minute. Because then your hope is that if I do magic for you and you really love it, you'll eventually start bringing over your friends and then they'll bring over other people and you can sort of start building from there. And the truth is sometimes it doesn't happen. You know, you find 1 or 2 people who are into it or a couple groups and then the rest of the event kind of just sucks.
Yep.
You know, you just have to learn that it's not your problem. Like if it was me or if it was the best magician in the world or the funniest comedian or whoever else, it would be the same thing. But I think like the first few gigs you do that, especially when I was younger and I didn't have as much confidence, you kind of do like feel like, oh, like is it like am I the problem? Is it me? But it's not. You know, it's like you were saying, like they just aren't interested and they're never going to be interested.
Well, that's a very mature way to look at it as well, because I've spoken about in previous episodes that, you know, often as a footy player as well, it's like if you come off a bad show, bad performance, that sort of stuff, you can walk away going like, oh my God, I'm a shit person as well.
Yeah.
So it's good that you've got that where you understand that it's like, no, it's not me. It's just sometimes people just...
Yeah, you know, I think the thing is, it's just the number of reps you get. You know, in like Christmas time, for instance, you might be doing like 4 or 5 gigs a week, and at those gigs you might be talking to 20 or 30 different groups of people, so the number of rejections you'll get is so massively high that eventually it just doesn't faze you anymore. So now, you know, I'm not really that against rejection because I've been rejected hundreds of times, which is the same you could say for Magicians Love Lives.
I really didn't know how to react.
You've got a girlfriend.
I do have a girlfriend, and I did meet her doing a card trick, so that's like the double tick.
Oh,
so she's,
beautiful.
Like, she's not a magician, as you sort of mentioned.
She's not at all a magician, but like I said, she is obsessed with knowing how things work. Like she hates watching murder mysteries and not being able to figure out how it works. Like we're watching Stranger Things right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the suspense of not knowing what's going to happen next kills her. So I think meeting a magician up close, because, you know, the truth is most people have never met a magician before or seen a magician like one-on-one before. So that like excitement, like, you know, it got her. And got her going, and she was excited about that and like seeing the things and you know, she'll listen to this and I'll get yelled at, but like she was a little bit of a heckler and she still is a little bit of a heckler. And like it's heckle with love, but like, you know, she puts me under the pump. Like, you know, if I don't want her to shuffle the cards, she'll want to shuffle the cards. And if I don't want to do this, she wants to do this. But it also kind of like trains you to be better because you're forced to improvise and come up with better methods. So it's like I was saying before, like if I can get past the girlfriend test, then, you know, nice regular people who aren't going to put me under the pump are easy to deal with.
Absolutely. She's a great barometer just for any situation.
I can only give you a round of applause about the inner circle that you've got around you, because it seems like they, you know...
Oh, thank you.
Best for both you.
I'm extremely lucky to have such a helpful and supportive group of people who not only support me, but also will basically do anything to make stuff happen, whether it's like building props or designing things, or my grandma like offers to iron my suits before shows, and like everyone just wants to be like involved and part of the team, and it's great.
Well, speaking of being part of the team, I reckon it's about time that we should see a card trick.
Oh, well, let's do it. Look, I brought a deck of cards for you, and I'll get you to narrate a little bit what's going on for people who maybe aren't watching or can't see, because obviously if I was to say something, they're gonna be like, you're clearly lying.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
First and foremost,
is this all right like this for the camera?
I actually think this is fine.
Awesome.
Let me get both your reactions.
So I tell you what we'll do. First of all, just for people who can't see the cards, these are shuffled and they're different stuff. It's not like all the ace of spades or anything like that. Yeah, it's just a normal deck of cards. Yeah.
That is correct.
Awesome. Do you believe in destiny?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, because there's kind of two strange of thought, right? There's people who think that everything is predetermined. Whatever's going to be is going to be. I was always destined to be here. You were always destined to contact me. There's other people who, though, believe in sort of coincidence, you know, like things don't necessarily happen for a reason. They just happen. So we're gonna put it to test. I'm gonna do a little experiment and see if I can change your opinion.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you the cards.
All right.
And all I need you to do is deal them into a pile for me and stop whenever you want.
All right.
But I want you to really think about when you're gonna stop. You know, so later on you can say to yourself, I was happy here.
Okay.
I'm not gonna talk for the rest of the time. I want you to think I'm like gaslighting you into stopping when I stop talking. So take your time. There's 52 cards there, so it's up to you.
I've already lost count.
Don't even count. Just kind of go off feel, go off instinct.
All right.
Feel the energy.
Yeah.
One of those cards will tell you to stop.
I don't want to. Ooh, that one looks different.
This one? Okay. So I'm just going to put this aside. I'll grab the rest of the cards off you.
There you go.
I'll push it towards you. Can you pop your finger on it so you know I can't switch it? Had you gone one card more, it would have been the 4 of clubs, which is a good card. Had you gone less, we would have got the 10 of hearts or any other option. Ace of clubs, 4 of hearts, 9 of diamonds, whatever. But you stopped there.
Yep.
Now you said you believe in. Well, you don't know what you said you believe in. So we're gonna see if we can cause a coincidence. I have an envelope here. If in this envelope was a matching prediction to the card you stopped on, that would be amazing, right?
That'd be incredible.
But it wouldn't prove anything because I am a magician. I just sleight of handed it. So let's put a different person in this position. Because if someone else in the room could tell you what that card was, that would be impossible, right? If you knew what that card was.
Look, I'm going to be honest. When he was sliding it over, I did see.
Right, so you saw what it was. So it didn't count. So what if we got someone who couldn't possibly know? Mm-hmm. Have you ever made a prank call before?
I've met one.
Have you made one?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, your refrigerator running, you better go catch it.
Yeah.
I want to make a random phone number and I want to call someone and I want to ask them to name a card.
Okay.
Now, I can't say they're going to answer. If they don't answer, we'll do something else like we were talking about.
Okay.
But I want to make it a random number, right? So who was the last footballer you spoke to?
The last footballer.
Last footballer.
Tom Mitchell.
What is their number? What's their play number?
3.
3. Okay, so we'll do 03. So 04, 03.
Yep.
What's your favourite food, do you reckon?
I'm a sucker for pizza.
Pizza. How many times do you reckon you've eaten pizza in the past 3 months, let's say?
Oh.
Twice? 2 times. That must be your favourite food. Okay, so we'll do 02. So 04, 03, 02. It's a weird number so far, right?
Yep.
We need 4 more digits. I tell you what, I don't want to put a number out on the podcast so 1,000 people can hear it. So put 4 numbers in at random, but don't say what they are like, so no one knows what they are, but you'll be able to obviously see the number.
4 numbers.
Yeah, so that should make a full digit, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll show you what it is as well. But now no one can listen to the podcast and just spam this person.
Yeah.
So right now, we've got a random phone number.
Yep.
I'm going to press call. I'll hold it to the microphone and hopefully someone's going to answer.
Yep.
I'm going to ask them to name a card and it will be the card underneath your hand.
My mind's going to explode.
So it's 04, 03, 02, and then we have our mystery number. So let's go. I'll put it on speaker. Hopefully you can hear this. Let me know if it...
Yeah.
I will officially believe in God if this comes through.
Hello, this is Olivia speaking.
Oh, hi, Olivia. This is kind of weird. I'm recording a podcast right now. This is a genuine thing. Say hi.
Hey, this is Max.
What's going on?
This is a real thing. I just want you to help me for 1 second. Would you mind giving us I want to ask you one question and then I'll let you go about your day. Is that okay?
Is it going to take long?
No, it's literally going to be 1 second. All I need you to do, I'm with a guy called Max, and he just picked a card. He's thinking of a card right now. And all I need you to do is name a playing card, like Ace of Spades. And I'm hoping that you're going to name the same card that he's thinking of. So can you just name a playing card, and then we'll hang up. I really appreciate it. I know this is...
Like a playing card?
As in the Ace of Spades or the Joker or something like that.
Okay, anyone?
Yeah, anyone.
And I think of it.
No, just name it out loud. Name it out loud.
Oh, okay. 2 of clubs.
The 2 of clubs. Awesome. Thank you so much for your help, Olivia. This is really random, but I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Okay, 2 of clubs. We called 04, 03, 02, and then your mystery number.
Yep.
Olivia answered, and she named the 2 of clubs. You dealt down. You could have stopped on the 10 of hearts, on the 4 of clubs, on any card, but you stopped on the one under your finger.
Yep.
You said you don't know if destiny exists, but let us find out if destiny is real. Can you please turn that card over for me? For the people who can't see, is that the 2 of clubs?
What? Yeah, that's there.
very much
I'll hold it
the
up to
2
the
of
camera there.
clubs.
That's
Holy
nuts, man.
Max, I want to make this special. So could you please write your name big and bold on that card for me?
All right, big and bold.
Or you can sign, you can do whatever you want. And just in case you think that maybe I've Googled you, I've stalked your signature. Oh, you've already done it. You've added a little love heart as well. So we can all see
Max love heart.
the little love heart as well. So there's no other card in the world that looks like this, right? You haven't gone around signing cards or anything yet?
Yeah.
I'm going to fold this up. Now, I didn't do this for a few years because of COVID, but we're in normal life now, so I can do my favorite thing in the world. Have you ever played Here Comes the Aeroplane? Yeah? Can you open your mouth for me, Max?
Yeah.
You bite down. There you go. So, Max, would you agree there's no possible way I could get that card without you feeling it, right? You can see it, you can feel it, it's all there. I'm going to use just a random card. We'll use the 4 of hearts. I'm going to write my name on it as well. It feels good to do this for someone with equal handwriting to me. There we go. So we've got Josh.
Josh with the
on the
smiling
4
face.
of hearts. We're going to do role reversal here. So we'll fold this one up. Can you roll reversal for me? Thank you, man.
Both of your faces while you were doing the aeroplane thing was very funny.
That was very romantic for me. Can you hold your finger out like, oh?
So now they're touching fingers, and Josh is drawing a line towards Max.
I just want to remind you that you wrote your name on a card, the 2 of clubs, and put it in your mouth. I wrote mine on a card and put it in my mouth, 4 of hearts.
Yeah.
Then we made that little connection. We touched tips. Fingertips, just to be clear. Which means this would be impossible.
Dude.
This is the 2 of clubs with your signature on it. So that one in your mouth, open it up. It should be a 4 of hearts.
Mate, this dude's crazy.
Insane.
What?
I got you to name some random numbers, yeah? It was number 3, which was our football number,
Yep.
2, which was pizza, and then a random one.
Yeah.
Are you good at math?
Nah.
Me neither. So we'll use a calculator. So the first one was 3.
Yeah.
Then we did 2, but that's only going to equal 6, so let's make it a little bigger. Add a second digit behind 2 for me, at random. Like 27, 20.
Oh, righty. 35.
35. Okay, so we've done 3 times 35. That wasn't 2 at all, so let's just do times 2 as well. And then we're going to do times 1 more, and I want you to put that random number in that you did before for me.
Put the random
Yeah,
number.
the one you did earlier, the last part of the phone number.
Oh, shit, you're testing me.
That's okay. If you can't remember it, no one's ever going to know it because we never know what the number is, so you could
Okay.
change it. If you want to heckle me like we've been talking about, you can.
Oh, mate.
You've done it? You put a random
Nah,
number?
I've completely forgot it, but I'm...
Just put
a
something
random,
random.
Random 4-digit
Random
number.
4-digit. And we'll pretend that you didn't
And then
forget
what?
it. You can edit
Equal?
around it. You've done it, yeah?
Yeah, it's on
so
there.
So just to clarify, since this isn't their phone number, I'll show it. It was 11645.
Yeah.
We've now got a random series number. If we hit equals, it's 210,622.
Yeah.
I told you that destiny exists. That was my theory. You didn't know. And I told you if I could predict the 2 of clubs, that would be not destiny, that would be sleight of hand. But if I could predict 210,622, that would have to prove something. This has been here the entire time, the whole show. It's been in my pocket and then on the table. Can you open the envelope for me, please?
Bro, I even forgot the number.
Remember, 210,622, that's what we're aiming for. 210,622.
Yep.
Take out the piece of paper. It's a business card, actually. I've written on the back. Can you read out what it says?
Today.
Today, and I signed the card. Today.
Yep, yep.
Because today is my prediction. Because our number is 210,622. But that's also known as today's recording date. The 21st of the 6th, 2022, 210622. That is today, and that is my prediction, and that is proof that destiny exists.
Bro.
How the fuck?
What?
That's phenomenal.
That's actually blown my mind.
I feel like when you were doing that, the one where you handed, when you put the cards in each other's mouths, look, I have ADHD, so I'm probably not the best person for this stuff, but I felt like I was focusing very intently on what your hands were doing, and it all looked above board to me.
Dude, that's actually blown my mind a bit.
I'm glad.
What?
That's phenomenal.
I forgot the number.
But you didn't. You remembered the number you needed to remember, because if you put a different one in, this would not have worked. And
Destiny, baby.
that is proof that destiny exists.
Oh, wow.
That's what kept me up at night when I was a little kid, seeing stuff like that and going, what if I had thought of a different number? And now you're going to have the same experience.
Oh, my goodness. That's
So-
actually blown my mind.
Just for the people, if you're listening in your car or anything on the way to or from work, just know that we will be putting the video of the tricks up online. So get to our socials and you can watch
Yeah.
them in person. But it will be a great introduction to seeing Josh live in show as well.
Ready for
the Melbourne Magic Festival.
Do you want to give us your show dates again?
Yeah, of course. So it's called The Conjurer at the Card Table, and it's on the 5th of July to the 9th of July at 8 p.m, and it's at a venue called The Arrow on Swanson. So it's on Swanson Street. And just for the people listening today, if you use the code MAGIC, as in MAGIC, you'll get 30% off as well to say thank you for tuning in.
Fantastic.
dude.
Thanks so much for coming.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. I reckon we could probably wrap it up there. I had some would you rathers and stuff, but my mind's already blown. So thanks so much for coming.
Thank you guys
Josh.
very
That
much
was
for having me.
amazing.
It was a pleasure.
Awesome.